All right, I am rolling. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. I'm not going to be very long. What I wanted to do was talk about the definition of a recording studio. And this is basically my opinion on how I see it on a recording studio. Technically, uh, if you look at a recording studio, just look at the environment. There's the reason why I said there's not really a definite answer on what a recording studio is, especially here in 2021. The reason why there's really no definite recording studio of what a recording studio should be, or technically what it should be, is because even the recording studios of what were considered to be high-end, top-of-the-line recording studios, none of them are even the same. And what you'll notice that, and I've noticed this with recording studios, even the most, I would say the most, I guess would be considered the top recording studios are not even they are not even the same. And the reason why I say that is because the designs of all these, whether it's Abbey Road in Europe, maybe some recording studios in Hansa recording studios in Germany, some recording studios in Japan, South Africa, Jamaica, the United States, whether it's LA or New York, maybe Chicago, recording studios in Detroit or whatever. All these different recording studios, when you walk into the buildings are different. Studios in, even in Atlanta, the entrances are different. A lot of times, even the recording consoles are different. Some people have SSL consoles. Some people have API. Some people have Neve. Some people have Audience. Some people have Harrison. Some people have a whole different types of consoles. And then the outboard gear. Some of the outboard gear is ubiquitous, meaning Universal Audio 1176s and the Teletronics LA2As, the stressors. A lot of them have a lot of the go-to Neve 1081s or 1073s or whatever in racks, API, 3-tail preamps. A lot of them have the Pultecs. Studio monitors would be, the Yamaha NS10s, maybe. But other than that, that's where it starts to change drastically, even from microphone selections. Whether some people are using U47s, some people are using whether whether they're the Telefunken or they're using a Newman or AKGs, or the microphones start to change drastically as well. So some people will argue while I'm making this video that you're only saying it because of the equipment that you have and you don't have an API or Neve or whatever, and I don't have big gear. Of course I don't have big gear because I don't have big money like that. But when I look at recording studios, I look at a couple of things about recording studios. The one thing that we're all recording is we're all recording into some sort of computer now. Whether it's a desktop or a laptop, whether it's a PC or a Mac, we're all recording through some sort of converter, whatever choice of recorder, and we're all choosing an environment that we're recording in, whether it's your home or a commercial building, and we're all recording some sort of source, and that's the musicians and the artists. Everything else is left up to everything else about recording studios and where you're recording and what you're using is all about choice, preference, and what it is that you're trying to record. That's all it really boils down to for recording. It's basically, there's 4 factors in a recording studio. And, let's face it, we're all using, whether we're using outboard gear, patch bays, or we're using plugins and software, we're all pretty much recording into a source pretty much the same way. We're going to record through some sort of, whether you're going to use microphones or you're going to use virtual instruments, you're going to record direct in, you're going to record instruments at a time, or you're going to multi-track, multi-record track. We're all doing it pretty much the same way into some sort of DAW of choice, and we're all using plugins of choice. We're all using pieces of gear of choice. But the concept of 4 areas that are still the same. The 4 areas that are the same today is you have to record into a DAW because you don't have to. You can record to tape. You can record to ADATs. You can record to Tascam, the DA88s. You can record to a hard disk recorder, separate hard disk recorder. You can record that way, but most of us are recording into a DAW. Whatever DAW you choose, that's the part of the recording studio that's the same. There's 4 factors to what makes the recording studios the same, and no matter what the environment, where it's being recorded, the same is this. We're all recording onto a DAW. We all have to record through some sort of audio interface, whether it's an AD to DA converter or it's an AD to DA converter / audio interface with preamps. Whether you have 2 channels, 4 channels, 8 channels, 16 channels, 34, 32 channels, or whatever. We're recording so that all that can be converted into the recording. You can see all the multi-track recording. We're recording that way. Whether we're using just the interface and, whether you're using a controller, mouse controller, the Mac Pro, PC, or whatever you're using, those are just tools. Choices of tools. Even the choices of plugins is, some people are going to use Slate. Some people are going to use Waves. Some people are going to use IK Multimedia's T-Rack. Some people are going to use, Nomad Factory. Some people are going to use Acoustica Audios. It just depends. You got a choice, a proliferate choice of plugins. So that's the same. Those number 2 choices of gear and software. The number 3 choice is going to be that's pretty much the same, is even though they're very different, but the concept of is having a place to record, whether it's a bedroom, an attic, a basement, a storage shed, a garage, a barn, in a truck, in a van, in an actual commercial building or rental building, a building that you own. The location of having a place to record is the same as far as the concept. So now we're talking, so boils down to 4 factors. Having a recording source. Your recording source is either going to be tape, some hard disk recorder, or into a DAW in your Mac or PC. You're going to have to use an audio interface. You're going to have a location, and naturally the talent, which is the musicians and the artists. So with those being 4 factors, that's the rudimental, that's the very fundamentals of the whole entire recording system, for whether it's 2021, whether it was 1981. That's really the same. It's the same with the music industry versus the music business. The music industry is still the same. The music industry, and all the music industry is about people with talent, and they're expressing their talent through artistic creativity and expression that draws in fans and audience that follow them because they love what that artist is doing. And they perform. And most of the time, 99% of the time, these artists express their creative expression on a stage in front of hundreds to thousands of people. That's the industry. the music business is basically how money is being made and how it's being made, and what's being sold, whether it's vinyls, cassettes, CDs, whether it's whatever the case may be. And because of that, how it's effective and how people can get to it, whether it's a music store or maybe by radio or by the internet, and how people can get it, whether they can digitally download it or buy a CD or buy a cassette or buy a vinyl. All that's part of it that's changed, and basically how people make the money doing that. But the industry itself is where the artists, the touring, artists always touring, going from place to place. That's been going on for the last, 100 years, since the 1920s. But as far as artists performing in front of people, has always been the same. Whether you go to 1800s, 1700s, where people are playing, whether it's an opera or a philharmonic, where people are playing, as the technology gets better and things are invented, that helps shape the way the music is being made. Whether using more electronic equipment, electric guitars. Electric guitars weren't around 200 years ago. It was a basic acoustic guitar. Electric guitars came around, in the 1900s. Synthesizers came around in the 1900s. Organs, 1900s. But pianos have been around for 500-600 years, if not more. Pianos have always been around. But synthesizers have not. Mixing consoles have not. Tape machines were not. All this is 1900s. But now we're recording into into digital formats using Macs or PCs, and we're using converters, audio interface. That's the only thing that's changed as far as how music's being sold. Before it was sheet music, then it became pre-recorded. Then you're talking vinyls. Then it became cassettes. Then it became CDs in the 80s, and then now it's digital downloads. MP3s or whatever. Now it's all about digital downloads and everything's through the internet now. That's one thing that changed. So going back to the recording industry, to wrap it up on this video, the four sources are still the same in the recording industry. Like I said, now we're just recording onto a Mac or a PC, and what the tools that we're using, whether you use whether you're using a Mac or PC, whatever software you're using, whatever interfaces, what other pieces of gear, whether you're using consoles, what type of mics, what kind of speakers, what type of outboard gear, that's the only thing that changes from recording studio to recording studio. And locations also change. For example, United Recording Studios in LA is not going to look like Blackbird's buildings in Nashville. Or it's not going to look like Electric Lady's building. They all have their own shapes and designs, and they all have these different choices of gear. The only thing, like I said, you might see that's pretty ubiquitous in a lot of those recording studios are some of the outboard gear, maybe some of the monitors. But every recording studio is different when it ranges from home recording studios to commercial buildings. They're all... And here's the surprising. Other than that, having the audio, basically the source you're going to record on is the same, or the concept's the same. The gear itself, using some sort of piece of gear, whether it's audio interface alone or you're going to use a ton of other stuff with it. The third thing is having the locations, whether, people recording in homes is actually not a new thing. You can go way back to Hitsville, Motown, as an example. That was in a house. So recording, it's a matter of how it's been converted acoustically, and whether you want to turn your house into a commercial recording studio. And then you want to spend the kind of money, acoustic treatment, sound treatment, room isolation and all this. And that's where it gets really expensive, the wiring and everything else. But the home recording studio is really not a new thing. It's just a more popular thing because it's more affordable and more people caught on to doing it. and especially access to equipment and gear and plugins and software has made it more feasible to do a lot, open up a ton of more home recording studios. That's all really. Other than that, the fourth thing would be the artists, which talent and recording talented musicians and artists and singers, and that's been around forever. There's always been talented musicians and artists for hundreds of thousands of years. So that's the same. So these artists always find a recording studio to record in, because that's where everything's made. And then after that, it's about going into the industry of performing for people. That's always been the same. Now, how the money is made, that's the variable part, and how recording contracts are made up, and how people are going to make money. People behind the business, how these artists can get money to support their career in the industry. That's the change, whether it's 50-50, 360 deals or whatever, or just being independent, trying to finance it yourself. All that's, the variables that's changed over the years, especially with the help of the internet. It just opened up the gates to let you know that, before it was the only way you could hear an artist is through TV and radio. Now artists can be, because of the internet, it just opened up the game where tons of more people can be seen. Lots of more people can be seen, and you don't need a record contract to be seen. You just have to have an outlet with a following. So in the end, that is the whole basis and premise of why I make this video on the recording studio. What makes a recording studio in 2021? The recording studio itself, like I said, is the four things. Other than that, everything else is just choice. To summarize and sum it up, I'll say it one more time. A recording studio in 2021 is basically these four common things that have always been around for a long time. And that is have your recording source. Whether you're using a Mac, PC, hard disk recorder, whatever you're using, and how you're using, whether, you're recording onto a Mac or a PC or a hard disk recorder, the recording source, that's the recording source. Other than that, everything else is just choice of gear that you're going to use, whether this audio interface, this microphone, you're going to use this mixer, these set of speakers, you're going to use, whatever you're going to use, this keyboard controller, this, fader port, or whatever you're using. That's all personal choice. There is no right answer on that. Number 3 would just be location. Where are you going to record? You're going to record in your living room, your dining room, your upstairs bedroom, your downstairs in your basement, in an apartment building, in a house, the garage, the attic. You're going to get a storage shed. You're going to work out of a trailer. You're going to work in a commercial building. And all that is choice and location and cost and affordability. So but that concept of that is still the same as far as a recording studio. And there's no right or wrong answer to the recording studio. There are lots of people that will try to make you think that you have to use certain locations, certain pieces of gear for it to be considered an actual commercial studio. And that is not nowhere near close to being the truth. Because in the end, if you record something well in your house and you match it to someone that went to a commercial studio, no matter, there are all pros and cons to a home studio, or it's really about the space and the size of the space. And do you have enough space to do the type of recording that you need? That's where it boils down to. If you're trying to record a band, you're going to need to, does your house or where do you have enough space? So in most cases, most people that do this stuff at home or in their apartment do not have the space or the acoustic treatment or the cost to convert a space that is acoustically viable. Some people do. Some people don't. And it all depends on the genre. There's lots of genres that do not require space. There are genres of music that all requires virtual instruments and sounds and samples. So it depends on the style. But other than that, the style also based on the fourth thing, which is the artist / musician, which is the talent. Without any good talent, everything else is worthless anyway. Because, no one's going to want to listen to bad talent. You're not going to want to listen to that. If I get made a recording, you're not going to listen to that. You're not. You're like, that sounds horrible. So the talent is the most important thing out of all of it. Having great talent, a great singer, a great musician, a great rapper, a great music production. Everything else is semantics as far as location, gear, and software and a recording source. That's all. Yeah, that's why there's 100 of different types of choices for all that. So that's going to sum up my video. My definition of a recording studio in 2021 is those are the key factors. Other than that, once everything is established on the recording studio side, now it's all about choice of how you're going to do that in the music industry, performing for people, and touring, and that's what it really is about in the industry, is the touring. The recording studio is just semantics. It's all about, there's no right. There can be a lot of wrong ways to do it, but there's no one right way to do it. There's a whole bunch of right ways to record, just like there's a whole bunch of wrong ways to record. But most of the time, the wrong ways just come from lack of knowledge and experience. That's really, then it could boil down to, the other couple of things: gear choices, location, all that can matter, especially on the genre that you're recording. That can matter. Other than that, but the most important thing is the talent and how this artist is going to get out in the industry and tour and perform for people and build a fan base, because that's what the fans really want, is the artist to perform for them. People, that's the part of the industry that's never changed, just the performing for people. And you're performing for hundreds of thousands of people. That's why that never gets old. That's why you could have an old rock band like AC/DC or Rolling Stones, and they can still sell out crowds because they're always still going to entertain the crowd. That's the part that's never going to ever change. It's not going to change. It's never changed. It's not going to ever change. Everything else, the business side, how you tour, what gear you use, how you record, that's going to change based on technology and locations and affordability and everything else. So that's going to do it for this video. That is my take on the definition of a recording studio in 2021. Like I said, it's all about choice of DAWs, plugins, gear, that's all choice. Location is choice. Other than that, everything else boils down to experience and talent. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great one.